Bow down before my psycho power.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I have a very powerful video that I want to show you guys. I'm going to break it down. It's a little bit long, but it comes from the legendary commentator, the great Avoiding the Puddle. Aris is the name. Some of you guys may not be familiar with this name because you probably just showed up with Tekken 8, or maybe you showed up late into Tekken 7's lifespan. But this is a guy who's kind of like the pillars, one of the foundations of Tekken's tournament scene, and also is just a huge impact. You think of guys like Markman, Tasty Steve, Rip. He's on that level of in terms of like what he's done for the player base. Now, the reason why you don't hear about his name too often anymore is because Tekken 7 made him quit. I know a lot of people are kind of quitting with Tekken 8 Season 2, but the problems that's happened in Season 2 was also prevalent in Season 1, but they also were flourished in Tekken 7 Season 3. For those of you who don't know, Harada got promoted during Tekken 7 at the end of Season 2, and Nikatsu took over in Season 3. This is when the balancing team changed. This is when we start to see very wild DLC. This is when we start to see praying for frame data and just all type of madness that didn't make sense. And at the time, Aris was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And also at that same time, Aris was not only the biggest Tekken streamer, but he was so big to where when you combine his stream with everyone else's and also like the main Tekken stream, his stream would push Tekken 7 above Street Fighter. And when Harada was always bragging about Tekken 7 being bigger than Street Fighter, a lot of that credit was rightfully given to Aris. So this is no small person that we're talking about. His impact is massive, and also since he's no longer here, right, the game went down a very dark road. We're still kind of feeling that crater. People always do a comparison between Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, and Mortal Kombat 1, and we talk about how Tekken 8 is kind of falling behind. One major reason is because they're slowly losing all of their great guys. Without further ado, let's check out this clip. I will be pausing and stopping when I want to highlight something incredible because the story that he is telling is magical.
But last minute, it was like not planned. They did a big tournament in Japan, right? And it was like they wanted me to go to this big tournament in Japan to do commentary. I don't remember what tournament it was. And I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'll go. They want me to go. The Namco, so I was like, okay, this is my rate. This is how much it's going to cost you if you want me to go and do commentary at your tournament. And the reason why I had this attitude was I had, at this point, done commentary for Namco so many times for free without getting paid, and had people around me say, oh, you totally could have gotten paid for this. But I didn't get paid because I didn't ask. I just was doing it for free because I like Tekken, right? So I had done this many, many times.
This is what I mean when I talk about the player base. The community has sacrificed so much. Usually when you hear the term community, it's talked about as this very negative thing. But at one point in time, the community is what kept Tekken alive. So many people have a similar story to Aris where they did so much for tournaments, building them, crafting them, commentating them, setting them up out of their own pockets, out of their own expenses, for the love of the game. This is why when you see so many people be upset, it's because they have this long history of like really coming out of pocket for a tournament to make sure that the game is successful and people see it. So when they get like lied to by the developers or stabbed in the back, it just hits on a totally different level.
And at this point, I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm not doing this shit for free anymore. I should give myself some value. I have value. So I was like, I'm not doing it for free anymore. And I said, okay, this is my rate. And the Namcops came back to me and they were like, we're not going to pay you. We can't pay you. It's not in the budget.
That's incredible. That's incredible. The fact that Bandai Namco would treat one of their legendary commentators in this way, that kind of dismissal is so baffling to me. The fact that there's probably many different stories like this as well is crazy. The reason why I want to make this video as well is that I hope a similar thing isn't happening now. I know there's a lot of new commentators, there's a lot of people who's commentating fighting games and trying to help out, but I also want these guys to know that they have value, they have a voice. They don't have to just, you know, take whatever they're given. They can push for something more. Also, I will note the reason why he is telling this story is because well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk it.
But we'll pay for your flight. Like, that's nothing, right? That's not even close to enough. But
so they said, no, we're not going to pay you to commentate our tournament that we invited you to, but we'll pay for your flight. And for those of you who know, paying for a simple flight isn't much. You still got hotels, food, a lot of expenses outside of that.
I did it anyway. I was like, you know what? I love Tekken. I'll do it anyway. Even though you're not paying me, even though I got a chip on my shoulder for doing shit for free for you for the last 10 years.
10 years. 10 years. When you see people crash out, I know a lot of people view Aris as like the green guy who just talks trash about Tekken. He quit Tekken. Why doesn't he just stop? 10 years. The Tekken World Tour probably wouldn't exist without him. His commentary was legendary. When you see an iconic clip of Tekken 7, a lot of the times the voices you hear is his. Let's continue.
I still will do it for free. I went over to Japan, and it was right before they did like a rehearsal. The Japanese tournaments kind of are more like professional in the sense that they do a rehearsal beforehand. So they were doing the rehearsal and they were practicing and everything, and you know, the order of things so that they're on time. And during that rehearsal, Harada came up to me, and at this time I didn't really know him that well, and I still don't know him that well, but I've been around him many times since then.
The reason why he's telling this story is because right now, Bandai Namco put the word out to multiple different commentators, content creators, just people who have an experience with Tekken. A lot of people are sharing their like a great moment that made them realize how awesome Harada is. So he's telling this story as like this is why Harada is so awesome. I know for the first half we focused on Bandai Namco being kind of a greedy company. That's kind of like typical. But now here comes Harada, showing that level of care and passion that practically no other developer shows on this planet.
At that time, I didn't know him very well, you know? Harada came up to me, and he had a handful of $100 bills. I don't know how much. And he said, I'm sorry we couldn't pay you, but I want to pay you. And I said, I'm not going to take your money, but I appreciate the gesture. And in my mind, the thing is that that's like way beyond Japanese, like, no, that's not very Japanese, is what I'm saying. That's not very Japanese, and that's what makes it such a kind gesture, you know? The fact that he did that, it's shocking that he would do that. And it was a kind of like a symbol that, you know, I'm sorry there's all this bureaucracy and shit, but I appreciate you on a personal level. I didn't take his money, but the gesture was worth more than the money.
This is why I personally try to separate the hatred for Tekken with Harada. I have seen Harada with multiple tweets, hearing multiple stories of him just trying to do the right thing by the consumer. I'll just give you two examples during the lifespan of Tekken 8. First example, we know that they snuck in a battle pass. We know that they went after mods after introducing a shop. The idea behind that is that the mods would compete with their battle pass and their shops, so let's kill that. Now, we don't know who, but someone put a stop to that order. The reason why I believe it is Harada is because if you think about what happened next a couple of months ago, when Heihachi got announced, he also had a stage, but that stage was not combined with the character or the DLC pass. You had to pay for it separately. At that point in time, Harada put out a statement, a tweet, saying that the company has gotten so big, talking about Tekken, and there's portions of it that is not under my control. And the marketing guys made a bad decision, a terrible decision, to charge for something that should be a part of everything else. So he said, we are going to restructure the company so decisions like that cannot be made. Those are just two examples right there of Harada going against the grain like never before and putting the players first. Now that Harada is leaving the company and, you know, he no longer has the ability to do things like that, we know monetization in video games is evolving every day. Now it's time for Nakatsu to step up and carry that same weight. But then at the same time, Harada had a lot of influence. He had a lot of times there at Bandai Namco. He can pull strings. There's also a statement that he said at the start of Tekken 8, how Bandai Namco executives are only interested in milking the game, and how he's in this constant, or he was in this constant push and pull to get them to stop trying to milk the game at every conceivable turn. Now, I know that Harada sometimes went against his promises of not selling DLC characters, selling frame data and stuff like that, but you could just see the examples and the times where he was able to stick to his guns and he was able to get Bandai Namco to back off.
You know, so that was like a really cool memory, a cool Harada memory I had